My name is Hubert Ernest Saunier. I'm a full-time commercial fisherman all my life, and I reside in Saunierville, Nova Scotia. My dad was a lobster fisherman. I started with him in 1969, and in 1973 I bought my own rig and my own boat. At the age of 18 I started fishing for myself.
My name's Adam Kinney. I fish out of Clark's Harbour in LFA 34. I've been a lobster fisherman for over a decade now. My background's fishing. My family, my father, my grandfather have been involved in the lobster fishery, but I did work out of school with the Canadian Coast Guard prior to coming fishing.
Years ago, I was the only one in Saunierville with a lobster license for fishing when I started. There's probably 7 or 8 of us in this area right now, but I remember for many years I was the only one.
There's roughly 960 LFA 34 license holders. At Clark's Harbour Wharf, there's roughly 60 to 70 license holders, and on Cape Sable Island alone, there's well over 200 license holders.
My name is Troy LeBlanc. My job is captain of a boat for Oromocto First Nations, and I live in Blacks Harbour, fishing. It's all I've ever done. 40 years, 30 years. Fish for scallops 90% of the year and lobster the other 10.
When I bought my boat in 1973, I mean, we had a steering wheel. There was no closed wheelhouse like they have nowadays. There was no sounder, no radio, no automatic pilot. It was just, you know, you just went out there and did your own thing and there was no technology whatsoever.
It's always been a piece of rope and a balloon, and that's all there was.
You know, wooden traps to wire traps. We used to use smaller rope, weaker rope. Technology has allowed us to fish more precisely. In the years past, it was local knowledge or, you know, generations of information passed down from grandson to grandson. And now technology's just evolved so much, we can tell, you know, we know where the shoals are and the deep water is, the hard bottom, the soft bottom. And the boats have gotten bigger. We can handle a lot more weather, a lot more wind, a lot more sea state.
Back then, if it was blowing 25 miles an hour, we wouldn't go fishing. Now it's blowing 35 or whatever, we're still out there.
We fish more, we fish harder, we fish longer days, we fish more days a season. And whether that's all good or not, I'm not sure. But we certainly put a lot more pressure on the industry now than we did in decades past.
Nowadays we have lobster boats with washer and dryer on board.
My name's Alden Goody from Tignish PEI. I snow crab fisherman. Been fishing snow crab for 10 years on my own, 15 years total. I've been fishing lobster since I was 17, 28, 29 years. It's been a family business, yeah. We've been followed in our father's footsteps. He followed in his father's footsteps. At any point in the springtime, there would be 150 boats out of Tignish.
My name is Sean Brilliant. I'm the Senior Conservation Biologist for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. Right now, the main mechanism to prevent entanglements in Canada is to not allow fishing to occur in areas where we know there are whales. This is resulting in what are called time area closures for fisheries. So fisheries are no longer able to fish in a given area, sometimes for a temporary period of time, sometimes for the rest of the season. This is no small hardship on the fisheries.
Up until this year, the fishery closures haven't really affected us. They call them grids. The grids are 7.5 miles from east to west and they're 10 nautical miles north to south. So when you see one whale, they close 9 grids around it. 48 hours to get our traps and get out of there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. At one point in time, there was 90 miles from Tignish before you can find an area that was open. It was a real stressful year with the closures.
The purpose is to try to avoid especially entanglements in whales.
Save the whales, right? So.
They're starting to include other whales, but right whales is the main reason.
The situation with right whales is very dire. None of these animals die of old age. Entanglement in fishing gear, ship strikes, noise, if it does not change, they will likely go extinct in the next 20 to 30 years. We'll all be around to watch them go extinct. If we lose the right whales, this problem doesn't go away. There's another species right behind it, and we'll be talking about humpback whales next, or we'll be talking about blue whales next, because the problem is not with the animals, the problem is with how we are using the ocean. And we have the ability and the knowledge to change that. preventing the occurrence of fishing gear in the same place at the same time as whales is the best chance to reduce entanglements. But if we can find equipment that will allow fish harvesters to fish in an area with whales without posing a risk to entangle them, then I think we're going to have a solution to this problem.
Ropeless gear is a form of technology that's been, I guess it was invented years ago. It's a fact of having something on the ocean floor, like myself, lobster gear, lobster traps, and no vertical lines from the bottom of the ocean to the surface. It releases the lines, the flotation device, and it comes to the surface, and then you can retrieve your gear, set it back again, and come back the next day and try to retrieve it again.
The concept is you run the trawl overboard, everything goes to bottom. When you want to haul your gear, you push a little button and it magically comes to the top. Supposedly.
A lot of these devices, these new mechanisms for fishing, are a little bit scary. Fish harvesters don't know if they're going to work on the boat. Are they safe? Can they catch fish? Will they come back to the surface? And also they're very expensive because they're almost all experimental devices. So there's a lot of risk associated with trying out these different new devices.
You have to be right where the buoy's going to come up and grab it as soon as it comes to the surface. You don't want to wait too long.
Overrunning each other.
With 20 and 30, 40 fishermen, it might become an issue.
You could be sitting on top of somebody else. You could get the thing snarled. You could lose the acoustic system and ghost gear as well.
I don't know if we'll benefit. It's only going to save the whales, and that's the point, right? We're really not going to benefit nothing. It's not even going to change us except for not seeing any balloons. But I can't see there being a benefit, right?
The benefit is that if a particular area is closed and nobody can fish in that area because of whales in that particular area, if I am trained and willing to work with this technology, I would be permitted to fish in that particular area without vertical lines attached to my gear.
I was the first one, Tignish, to do it. I used them for about 2 weeks, and they were seeing how much closer home we could stay with them, so you're saving 50% of your fuel.
The time area closures are the solution to preventing whale entanglements, but the opportunity to use on-demand gear is going to be the solution to these time area closures for the fishermen to ensure that they can continue fishing without threatening the whales.
A lot of people think it's crazy, but they haven't tried it. And they really don't want to try it. They just stuck in their old ways, and that's the way they're going to stay, I guess, until DFO says you have to.
It's a touchy subject. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people don't like change. A lot of the fishermen don't like change.
Some people ain't open to new technology, and I try to talk to people about it, but a lot of people don't understand because they never used it.
You know, it used to be, no, this is not going to work, this is not going to work, this is not feasible. I mean, it costs a lot of money, and I'm aware of that. I mean, it's got its problems, but ever since time, I mean, we've always had to deal with problems and have tried to make it work, and there is a way of making it work.
Without this system this year, I would have left putting 200,000 pounds of crab in the water in one boat and putting 100,000 pounds in the other boat. And in Tignish alone, I would say there would have been close to 750, 800,000 pounds of crab not been caught. That's a substantial living for a small town like this.
The livelihood of the lobster fishermen right now in Southwest Nova is a direct spin-off to every other business. So without this industry, there's not much left in Southwest Nova, or Nova Scotia, for instance.
There's got to be a way. But it's not going to make things faster, but you know, just make it work. There has to be.
As I always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Put that in there.